I 26F missed an important funeral and now I think my 5-year relationship with my partner 28M might be over. Before everything happened between us we were solid. I thought this guy was my forever. We've lived together for the past 3 years and I always loved him and the way we supported and helped each other. He used to say we were family, and we would always look after each other. This year was my final year in uni, to get my March and my Part 2 exemption to become an architect. In March this year, the final printed copy of my research project was due, basically a culmination of the past 7 years of my education. Unfortunately in this time my partner's grandmother passed away. This woman basically raised him when both his parents couldn't deal. They were incredibly close. In her final year she got dementia but she always remembered him and their little inside jokes. He loved her so much, probably more than anyone else in the whole world. Over those few weeks after she passed away, I tried to spend a lot of time with him. I took him to the archdiocese and we lit candles and walked through the gardens and talked about his grandmother. His friends came up for a visit that weekend and I spent the weekend with them to keep him happy, even though I should have been working on finishing my research project. I took care of him all that week, letting him rest and try to mourn. Unfortunately his boss is a huge prick and it was a struggle for him to get any time off to properly rest and take care of himself. His grandmother's funeral was scheduled to be 4 days before my research project hand-in date. The problem with this is that I still needed to get everything printed and do final editing and the funeral was happening on the other side of the country. This was a 200-page research project. I worked my ass off to get everything together beforehand, so that I could go with him. But in the end I didn't have the time and the reality was that I was editing and adding to the project up until 2 days before my hand-in. I did Skype with him in the mornings and evenings so we could talk about how he was doing. After the funeral he returned home, but he was incredibly sad. After my hand-in I tried to talk with him about it. He showed me some pictures and I read the eulogy that his sister read at the funeral. I cried a bit after reading the eulogy, and that's when my boyfriend got angry. He said that I didn't have a right to cry or be upset because it was his grandmother and because I had chosen to forgo the funeral. Things have just gone downhill since then. It's been 2 months. On top of my research project, I also had my regular work to finish over the past 2 months. It's just been a very busy time in my life. My boyfriend went through a similar experience the year before, where I helped and supported him through his work, and he tried to help me and support me through mine, but the entire time he was cold and distant, and at one point he even admitted to me that he didn't want to help me, and he couldn't be bothered. So this all came to a head recently, when I confronted him about how he has been distant and the way he has been treating me, ignoring me all day, being rude, distant and sometimes downright nasty to me. He basically said he can't forgive me for missing his grandmother's funeral, and he doesn't think he ever will. At this point I will admit that I lost it. I was put in a situation where I had to choose between my relationship and my education and it's only in hindsight that I see it. I was so overwhelmed and upset that I hit my head against the wall, hard and screamed, but only because I've never been in so much emotional pain in my life. I didn't know how to handle it so I handled it poorly. Since then things have not gotten better. We've tried to talk it over calmly, but a few days ago he lost it and went on this rant about how terrible his life is and how hurt he is. There is a lot more going on with his family than I knew, including that his father used to beat him badly and his grandmother would protect him. I never knew this about his father, though I knew they had an incredibly strained relationship. I've suggested therapy but he had said he is not up for it. We talked about a solution and he thinks I need to go back to my home country by myself for a few weeks and be with my family, and to leave him alone for that time so that he can think and mourn alone. He also said that he is thinking about moving out of our flat at the end of the summer, to go live with some friends, but he said that he wants us to stay together. I think at this point that the relationship might be over. I don't know how to show him that I'm sorry I missed the funeral, but there was no other option for me. I love this guy so much, but if this is how our relationship is going to be, I don't think I can do it. I need perspective on this issue, maybe some advice on how to apologize properly, and if not maybe some advice on how to end a long-term relationship. A lot of people have been mentioning this. I did ask for an extension from my academic advisor, and he told me that the school does not grant extensions under any circumstances. The way my university handles mitigating circumstances for graduate projects is that they expect you to turn in whatever work you have completed by the deadline, and then they allow you to resubmit the completed project at the next grading cycle. However, this would mean that I would not be allowed to graduate this year, and would have to wait until the next graduation cycle. Also, I should mention that we usually return to my home country for a few weeks in the summer to visit my family. A trip wasn't planned or set for this summer but we had discussed a possibility of it. That's why it's not a completely unreasonable request that I go home for a while. My boyfriend can't forgive me for missing his grandmother's funeral, but it was scheduled only 4 days before I had to hand in my huge research project for my master's degree. He has been distant and treating me coldly and for the past 2 months and now wants me to go back to my home country and leave him to grieve alone for a few weeks. He says he needs some space and is considering moving out of our home, but overall wants us to still be together. Advice? Help?